Community involved in sustaining agriculture just wrapped up its 25th anniversary year. And one way the occasion was marked was through those personal stories like the one that we just heard from Rebecca Martin about the impact of farming and eating local food. I spoke with the communications manager at CISA about where the organization and the community tied to it goes from here.
When CISA started in the early 90s, and CISA stands for Community Involved in Sustaining Agriculture, and that's really what we focused on over the last 25 years is sustaining and supporting local farms. So when CISA came into existence in the early 90s, we were coming out of a period where farms in the Northeast and farms throughout the entire country really were seeing a drop in average income. The land base had shrunk here in Massachusetts and I think throughout much of the Northeast. And a lot of the sort of way that farms had sustained themselves for decades with localized regional markets had started to be replaced by a more national and more global food system. So at the time that CISA was created by a group of farmers and farm advocates, they were really feeling the need to create and rebuild a local food system that could sustain farms.
So to help people remember, hey, these carrots are coming out of the ground, yes, maybe from Hadley, yeah, instead of somewhere in Central California.
Right, and the focus was really on using kind of mainstream marketing and consumer outreach efforts to connect people to farms in our own communities here in Massachusetts. So some of the changes over the last 25, 30 years have been a real uptick in direct-to-consumer sales. So more and more farms are selling their products directly to consumers at farmers markets and through CSA farm shares, at farm stands.
Yeah, exactly. Farm stands on their own property.
So there's a lot more of that sort of thing happening. And you can see that, I think, for a lot of people who've lived here for decades, that is a really visible part of what's happened in the food system here. So that's one example. I think that there has been a lot of advocacy and a big push towards getting local food into schools, into including local food into programs that are designed to address hunger. So a lot of work that's been focused on kind of institutionalizing local food in systems that are feeding people in all sorts of different circumstances, not just, go to the grocery store and choose local, which is an important piece of it too.
And also I have noticed in recent years, even in grocery stores, you'll see tags more often that say that where that particular food item is sourced from.
Yes.
Which I don't think that we maybe would have seen 20 years ago.
Right. So I think as the demand for local food has grown, most people buy their food at large grocery stores. A lot of our meals come from restaurants. Most of the food that people eat is still coming from pretty mainstream sources. And so working to get local food into those streams and having those businesses see the value of buying local food and seeing that that is something that consumers want is a really important piece of it.
And telling people when they're using turnip from somewhere nearby.
Right.
Just little changes like that
Yes.
I think what your organization has helped people to realize is it makes a difference.
It does, yeah.
Another thing you did over this 25th anniversary year was to celebrate stories of kind of food and farming in the region. Yes. You did a program called Field Notes. It was kind of your equivalent of Stories from the Stage or The Moth,
yes,
different ways that storytelling is heard either on radio or on television. And so we saw a story earlier tonight of a woman who uses the food system that's available to her, and really she talked about how important that has been for her family. Rebecca Martin was her name.
Yes.
Where did the idea come from to share stories in that way?
So a lot of the work that CISA has done over the decades and that we're continuing to do is focused on just providing resources for consumers or for wholesale buyers who are looking to source from local farms. And that piece of it is really kind of like, here's the information. If you want to buy tomatoes, here's where you can go. Another big piece of what we do is about storytelling in different ways. We've done a number of segments with Connecting Point over the years to highlight relationships in the food system and highlight what different farms are doing. And what we really wanted to do was to make that storytelling piece even more personal. We talk about the food system, which is farms and distributors and processors and all of these pieces that get local food to our plates. But I think part of talking about a system can make that feel a little bit impersonal. And really, it's populated by farmers and people working on farms and people working in all of those different types of businesses and shoppers making decisions and all of the sort of human pieces of that. So we wanted to create a platform for people who are engaging in the local food system in different ways. So Rebecca's an example of someone who is an advocate for programs that make local food more available to people who are hungry, and also someone who's using those programs. So her story is really about, how those connections have changed her life and the life of her children. And so we wanted to sort of pull out the personal interactions and the personal stories and have people kind of speak from their own experience.
And then on the opposite end of that spectrum, we'll see a story from Meg Banto tomorrow that looks at, she's kind of picking up the mantle. She will be a 6th generation farmer in Adams.
Right.
So lots of different stories, lots of different perspectives.
Right.
It struck me as I was, because I've seen Meg's story, as our guests will see it tomorrow night, is the idea of collaboration. Because if her grandparents hadn't started this farm and the farmers before them, she's now looking at ways that she can fit into that picture. But as I understand it, she's also looking at the possibility of different ways to use that land.
Right.
Is that something new we're seeing to sort of help farming move along?
I think that something that has happened in the decades that CISA's been around, and even in my time there, is that, and I think this is something that extends, well into our history and into our future too, is that farmers really have to figure out how to respond to a changing world. Like the work that we do, which is focused on our local food system, is really shaped by forces outside of our region, and individual farms are making choices based on their own land and their own families and sort of very localized needs, but also what's happening in the markets more broadly, what's happening in the food system more broadly. And I think that what we've seen is that individual farms and our local food system have shifted throughout time to respond to external pressures and individual needs. And that is really part of, I think, what's captured in Meg's story is the need to do that and to sort of revisit every generation. What do we want this farm to be? How do we fit into our larger community? And that's something that, they'll always have to do because we are connected to the communities that we're based in and to our larger world.
What's next for CISA? You just kind of spent a year looking at the past 25.
Yes.
Where do you go from here?
I think we're always looking ahead. We have programming right now that's focused on working with beginning farmers, so people who've been farming for 10 years and less. So we're looking at, I think, a lot of what Meg's story, which people will see tomorrow, highlights is generational transition and younger farmers coming in. There are also people who want to farm who don't come from farming families and have to figure out how to access land, which is an enormous barrier, and how to build up on-farm infrastructure and build a market for themselves. So that's a piece of what we are focused on, is figuring out, who's the next generation of farmers coming in and how can we support them. Another piece of what we're doing is thinking about how to bring more consumers and more people into buying local food. How do we meet people where they are in terms of the decisions that they make about shopping, which again are personal and based on all sorts of individual circumstances. How do we bridge that gap for people and make it more possible for people to choose local? Rebecca's story is focused on programs that are designed to bridge that gap for people who can't afford to buy local food or who don't have enough money to feed their families. And so we're working with the Healthy Incentives program in an ongoing way, which is one of the programs Rebecca mentioned that is bridging that gap financially by providing a rebate for people when they use SNAP, formerly known as food stamps, to buy local produce. So really, as Field Notes was, really the gamut of issues.